At the time, when all hopes had turned into despair, and the land of Iran was being plundered by enemies and demons, at this very moment, the bird of happiness began to soar above the skies of Iran. The sun of Iran started to shine once again, and the last conqueror of the East, Nader Shah, began to rise. He was the last greatest warrior conqueror that the East had ever known. Nader Shah was born in 1067 in Persian calendar, 6087. He was one of the men of Afshar tribe, which, due to his family background, had a powerful history and was among the notable family of this tribe. After reaching the age of 80, the grief of losing his mother at the hands of the Uzbeks and his subsequent capture did not prevent him from rising again. He was soon able to escape and rebuild himself. Throughout these years, due to his exceptional ability, he served various rulers and commanded armies. As the month of Merv, October, of 1101 in the Persian calendar, 7022 in the Gregory calendar, approached, when Nader was 34 years old, the city of Isfahan, which was the capital of Iran, was occupied by the Afghan rebels from one of the Iran province, and the Safavid government fell. A fresh and deep wound was inflicted on Nader's heart. He was one of the leaders who could not bear this great loss, and began to resist and fight against the Afghan rebel forces. Nader, who was himself the commander of 2,000 people forces he had gathered, was at the forefront in battle against the newly established government. At this time, the last surviving member of the Safavid dynasty, who was also fighting like Nader, took a special notice of him with great effort, made him one of his allies. Tahmasp Safavi, who was ruling in Qazvin, took Nader's sword into his hands and freed Iran once again from the clutches of the invaders. Nader's first serious conflict was with the ruler of Sistan. He had to subdue Mahmud Sistani in order to establish his foothold in Sistan and Khorasan. This battle marked a new beginning for Iran and was considered a bridge to victory for the upcoming wars that Nader would face. Their first confrontation took place in Quchan. After Mahmud suffered a heavy defeat at the Battle of Quchan, he retreated to Mashhad. It didn't take long for Nader to lay siege to Mashhad, and a fierce battle ensued, which Nader triumphed over Mahmud and took control of a large part of eastern Iran. The victory in Battle of Mashhad was a great alarm for the ruler of Isfahan. Ashraf Afghan, who was ruling Iran at the time, became alarmed upon hearing of Nader's victory, and hurriedly began to gather an army to suppress Nader. The Battle of Damghan marked the end for the Afghan and the beginning for Nader. The Battle of Damghan, which took place in 1729, was a battle in which Nader forces numbering around 25,000 faced Afghan forces estimated at 40,000 to 50,000. Although the number of Iranians was smaller than Afghans, they had a capable commander. Nader, with his initiative in this battle, unified the entire army as one unit, using all their strength simultaneously. The coordination of the forces in combating the enemy, along with precise and synchronized shot, resulted in minimal casualties for the Iranian while inflicting heavy losses on the enemy. After the defeat at Damghan, the Afghans quickly fled to Tehran, then to Isfahan, preparing to comfort Nader once again. After the decisive Battle of Damghan, Nader charged with all his might towards Isfahan. A new chapter of history of the land of Iran, the decisive Battle of Muchachor, marked a new dawn for the land of Iran. In November 1729, it means 1138 year of Iranian calendar, Nader Shah reached Muchachor, Isfahan. The Afghans had gathered all their forces, with the help of their Ottoman allies, who were responsible for artillery and musketry, preparing to comfort Nader. The Iranian soldiers, in their fight to free their land, show immense bravery and charge towards the enemy without fear of death. The well-organized Iranian forces, combined with the fear and hesitation of enemy, made it clear that outcome of the battle would soon be determined. The Iranian army, with discipline and coordination, charged swiftly toward the enemy's artillery, delivering precise and organized shots that inflicted heavy casualties on the enemy. Despite their courage and aggression, the Afghans became hesitant in battle, and most often seeing their comrade fall. abandoned the battlefield and fled. The defeat at Isfahan was so crushing that enemy did not even return to Isfahan. They quickly fled toward Shiraz, but Nader did not rest, and swiftly pursued the remaining enemy forces. The final fate to the Afghans come at the Battle of Zargan in Fars province, where Nader dealt the final blow to them. After their heavy defeat, there was no force left to continue fighting. The remaining soldiers and commanders fled Iran and sought refuge in India. Even Ashraf Afghan, who was trying to escape, was killed in Sistan. After the recapture of Isfahan and coronation of Tahmasp, Nader was tasked with reclaiming the occupied region of western Iran. Very soon, numerous victories were achieved, and all of western Iran were reclaimed from the Ottomans and freed. Now, it was time for the final reckoning. Nader immediately set out toward Herat to finish his unfinished business and bring the remaining Afghan rebels to justice for their deeds. The Afghans had prepared themselves for this battle, and a protracted war and a long siege began. Just as another Shah was battling in Afghanistan, trying to capture Herat and Kandahar, at the same time, Shah Tahmasp, out of jealousy for Nader victories, and to solidify his own position in the Iranian government, set out for Iran with an army to wage war against the Turks. The result of Tahmasp's military campaign was severe defeat for the Iranian forces and the loss of everything that Nader had reclaimed. Tabriz, Kermanshah, and Hamadan fell. And through a disgraceful treaty, Shah Tahmasp handed over Iranian territory to Ottomans. After this humiliating defeat, Tahmasp returned to Isfahan and began indulging in luxury. Upon hearing these events, Nader Shah quickly returned to Isfahan, deposed Tahmasp, and placed his young son on the throne. Nader Shah was enraged upon hearing this news, and ordered the king to annul the treaty, but Shah Tahmasp refused, and Nader deposed him, placing the young third Abbas on the throne. He then warned the Ottoman court to leave Iranian soil. The Ottoman court sent this Persian poem to Nader. چو خواهی قشونم نظاره کنی سحرگه نظر بر ستاره کنی اگر آل عثمان حیاتم دهد ز چنگ فرنگی نجاتم دهد چنانت بکوبم به گرز گران که یک سر روی تا به مازندران. When you wish to see my army, look at the stars in the morning. If the house of Osman grants me life, it will save me from the Frank's grasp. I will strike you with a heavy mass and crush you from head to toe all the way to Mazandaran. Nader Shah responded with the following: چو خورشید سعادت نمایان شود ستاره ز پیشش گریزان شود عقاب شکاری نترسد ز بوم دو مرد خراسان 200 مرد روم اگر حال ایدر دهد رونقم به قسطنطنیه زنم بیرقم. After deposing Shah Tahmasp, Nader set out for Kirkuk to fight the Ottomans. After the arrival of his forces from Azerbaijan, he besieged Baghdad on April 1732. Nader employed a special strategy for the battle against the Turks. The Turk estimation was that since all their defeats had occurred in Battle of Yerevan, they were preparing to welcome Nader in Armenia. In surprise move, Nader swiftly hid toward the land of Baghdad, and after capturing Kirkuk, he completed the siege of Baghdad. The Turks were caught off guard and were stunned, but the governor of Baghdad fiercely resisted with great courage. The Ottoman court quickly summoned the conqueror of Eastern European land, Opal Pasha. And this was the end for the invisible man of the Turks. The conqueror of Europe was unable to face the conqueror of the East, and he was defeated, surrendering his life in battle. Opal Pasha, who with his 100-strong army had managed to break the siege of Baghdad, succeeded in lifting the siege and forcing Nader to retreat to Hamadan. However, in the next battle, he lost both the war and his life. The Turks, not wanting to engage in too much conflict with Nader, sent him a messenger. The messenger of this envoy was as follows: Nader, our army is like these two large sacks of barley. we have brought for you. You cannot defeat them, they are too many. Our army is vast. In the presence of the Turkish envoy, Nader ordered 2 roosters to be brought, and the roosters ate all the barley in front of the Turks. Nader then said, "Your army is finished. Now it's time to finish unfinished business." Nader immediately marched toward the land of Armenia and the Kafkas, getting closer with each passing moment to the fateful Battle of Murat Tepe or Yakvar. The Iranians and the Turks were preparing to face the final battle. The victor of this battle would be the victor of everything. Nader knew this well. The Turks were also fully prepared, having come to ensure they would lose nothing. In this battle, Nader displayed a brilliance that left no room for the resistance from the Turk. He had divided his army into 3 sections. The Turks had stationed their artillery in the highest area of the battlefield, which was a significant advantage. Several groups of Iranian soldiers had been tasked with secretly moving to the hills and capturing the artillery with minimal casualties. After capturing the artillery, Nader charged at the Turks with all his might. The Turks were completely caught off guard, with their own artillery firing from one side and Nader's attack from the other. They quickly began to retreat and flee toward the forests. However, the battalion of Iranian army were waiting in the forest to welcome them. The remaining Turkish force in the forest were utterly destroyed and marked the end of Iranian wars with the Turks. All of Iranian territories were reclaimed. After the battle, Nader sat on a piece of stone and ordered the Russian ambassador to come before him. Nader, with his sword stained in blood, began cutting a few onions and ate them with bread. After eating the blood-soaked onions, he warned the Russian ambassador Galitzin, saying, "I have heard the Russian soldiers are present on Iranian soil. If you leave Iran, there will be no problem. Otherwise, I will throw all the Russian soldiers in the Caspian Sea." Galitzin lowered his head and wrote the Russia Queen the same day, "I saw Nader, and he reeked of blood. It is wise for us to leave the soil of Iran immediately." Following that letter, the Russian army left Iran's soil in less than a month without any battle. After the end of conflict with the Ottomans and Nader's decisive victory in 1736, the Iranian noble insisted that Nader Shah sit on the throne of Iran, and the Afshar dynasty began a new chapter in Iranian history. Nader Shah was crowned in place in the Mogan Plain, in the presence of all of the merchants, nobles, and military and civil officials, and he accepted the kingship of Iran. Now, he had to think of a solution for the Afghans in India. The Russians, having learned of this, sent him a letter. The ruler of Russia sent a message to Nader Shah, offering substantial assistance for the conquest of India, provided that Nader would help Russia seize Eastern Europe. That was despite the fact that the ruler of Russia knew that the Iranian army was the most powerful in the world at the time. However, since conquering Eastern Europe was his ambition, he sent this proposal to Iranian ruler. Nader wrote a letter to him, which began with a greeting and then said, "We will not go to India for conquest. What we seek is the trial of 18 bloodthirsty men who have oppressed Iran for 20 years. And for this, we don't need your help. Furthermore, we Iranians do not need the homes and properties of other countries' people." After Tirivani, even Tau Burkani, the king of India, refused to surrender remaining Afghan forces, estimated to be 800 men. Eventually, in the Battle of Karnal, the Iranian forces fought against the Indian troops. In the Battle of Karnal, the number of Indian forces was 5 times that of the Iranian forces. And another major issue was that war elephants of India. Nader Shah demonstrates remarkable ingenuity in the battle. When he saw the elephant, he immediately ordered the camel's humps be filled with firewood and set ablaze. The stalled camels were sent toward the Indian army, and the elephants, upon seeing the burning camels, became terrified and start fleeing right where the Indian forces were stationed. A large portion of the Indian army was crushed under the feet of their own elephants. Nader, with minimal casualties, captured Delhi, and Turkani requested mercy from Nader. Nader hanged the remaining Afghans in the Delhi market and returned to Iran with abundant spoils, including the diamonds of the Sea of Light and the Mountain of Light. Nader had become a national hero, and he had rebuilt Iran once again. Exhausted from so many exhausting wars, he no longer had the energy to govern. The immense pressures of war and rulership he had made him deeply mistrustful, and evidently this mistrust even led to his eldest son being blind by him. His right-hand knight was one of the reasons for another great victories, but now, due to conspiracy and mistrust, he was blind by his father. After coming to power, one of the great measures he took was initiate extensive research into the naval force. He assigned many craftsmen and specialists to research the construction of warships. But it wasn't long before these specialties were mysteriously assassinated. While Nader was in a very poor mental state, he was assassinated by his own forces during a trip to Kuchan. And this marked the end of the last conqueror of the East, a boy who became a commander who became a national hero, and a champion who became a legend forever.